So let's explore a little bit about the questions. Why learn Python? Right? Why learn C++? plus plus? Why learn C? Why learn JavaScript? Right? A lot of people trying to uh, learn this stuff without knowing they ask the wrong questions. So let me give you example a little bit about uh, what I'm trying to get here. So let's say I'm trying to learn Japanese or Italian, and I know a lot about the vocabulary. Let's say Italian, right? I know a lot about vocabulary and grammar correctly, right? I know how to say it, but I don't know their culture. So if I don't know their cultures, then I'm just gonna sound like Google Translator. Okay, so when you type in Google and you're trying to translate something, it makes no sense to a person who speak Italian fluently and they know their cultures, right? And it will be like some robotic answers, right? And or translations, and it make no sense out of context and stuff. So the same with learning programming languages. First, we should ask uh, questions. Okay, where is the Python languages used? Well, it used in automated automations, data analysis, and cybersecurity, and a lot of stuff, right? So, which part do exactly interest me? Maybe automations, maybe data analysis, right? And then I can start learning the Python. So the bigger questions we should be asking is, where can I use this? So in C and C++, I can use it in system programming. So I know where some of the people will go down into rabbit hole, right? Learning the rabbit hole of learning, right? So in C, C is closer to the hardware part, but um, it's very useful for programming in hardware related embedded system and stuff. And also there is system programming where you can learn a little bit less related to embedded system, but more related to system uh, operating system. So instead of learning the C, you will have to learn the architectures of computer system first, and then you can start learning the C language, and you know where to use them after that. So maybe you don't want to learn architectures and designs of computer system. Maybe you want to use C coding for C language for um, the backend system of the backend for a website, right? For server programming. So you can narrow it down and start making sense. Instead of learning the C alone, you start learning the bigger concepts, the bigger questions, right? And those concepts start making sense, right? Uh, like these languages are invent because a human can interact with machines closer to our human language, right? So their invention is it has a purpose, and these purposes are make them different. So C is useful for system programming, embedded system, and when you're trying to learn JavaScript, learning JavaScript alone can be It make no sense, right? You might, if you want to learn JavaScript, then you might as well learn full stack programming or a web design or a web something. They're related to web because JavaScript is used a lot in web. So you start learning the architectures of web, how they use and stuff, and now JavaScript is make a lot more sense. So how do we learn these concepts faster? Right. Well, we can read slow and create mind map. And when before we read the tutorial or concept, we generate questions using ChatGPT or AI, something that we can use it for to generate. And we strategize based on where we want, what we want to build. And let's say you read tutorials based on Python programming, and you want to code. You want to code using Python, but you don't want to learn Python alone. You want to understand first. You want to understand the problem itself first. So now that you understand the problem, you can use Python to uh, solve the problem. So maybe you don't know how if function work, for loop work, but once you understand the problem, uh, you can start solving using uh, computations thinking, right? Computations thinking. So you'll be like, how can I solve this? You can ask that questions. How can I solve this problem? It asks me to do this. It asks me to put them in a list, sort them in this way and that way. Well, where can I use them? Um, how can I do this faster? And how can I make this? How can I solve this problem easier? Like very easy way to solve the problem. So when you search on online, you can get a lot of tutorials, and if you use AI and stuff, you will get the answer right away. And when you get the answer, you just don't copy and paste. You start asking more questions. Right now that you understand those how the language work, you can use that knowledge to answer a lot of questions, a lot of different questions. And if you still don't understand and you trying to learn smoother, you can use analogy. Right? For example, uh, full stack programming. Here you can use analogy to understand how client and server work. So compared to clients and server, we can compare against a restaurant, right? The chef and staffs and people who came there to eat gonna be your clients, and they can order the server, and the server interact with the staff and so on. So that analogy make you understand a lot of hard problem, and uh, you start coding, you start solving problem, but uh, the detailed part of the syntax and stuff, you can get familiar with them as the times goes on, and you start practicing and practicing JavaScript or the web development goes on, right? So you don't try to uh, remember the syntax or try to memorize the syntax at the spot. You try to understand how it works and what it does, and that's it. That's alone. So just like learning the language, learning a human language, you don't have to memorize vocabulary or phrases right at the spot. You try to understand where what the culture is and what you are doing at the moment, and uh, how you can use those phrases and vocabulary in the particular context or particular situations. And now that you understand them, you can you make connections to your understanding, and you start connecting the dots. So that's why uh, learning faster doesn't mean reading a lot faster or watching tutorial faster. No, it doesn't relate it to that. What learning faster and what learning faster mean is basically understanding things, the concept faster, right? Narrow it down is basically dissecting the concepts and tutorials and get the bigger pictures with uh, scope, right? And otherwise, you will dig deeper into the rabbit hole and you can get out of context or out of there's too much to understand and you can burn out. So you create the framework, right? You strategize it and you understand the bigger pictures, and then after that you start learning those little detail stuff. So that will help you learn programming faster. And things like right here, I like to read a lot of them. For example, University of Helsinki, they have these free courses like full stack open, and for web development, right? And for uh, understanding embedded system and assembly and C, you can use something like dive into systems. Uh, they are not that too much to read, right? They are very minuscule, like compared to a lot of other reading materials. So you ask yourself, like, how can I read a lot of things here? There's too much to read. Well, also compare yourself to this, like a soccer player. When they start playing, they don't like me. I don't even know how to kick the ball first, but I understand that I have to pass it to someone. I can't just hold the ball forever, so I have to pass it. So that's the first concept. And as you go on, you start understanding how to pass and understanding how to defend uh, and directly contact with the ball, and you start playing differently based on uh, different players and based on your experience. And directly you have to you you have contact with the your opponents. Similar to that in language, learning programming language and software engineering, uh, you have to dive into this without reading the whole thing, right? In the code, you dive into this and uh, you start thinking how this code might work, okay? And you take notes on that, and after that, you experiment with it, and after that, if that your the way you thinking is correct, then you start reading a little bit here and there what the concept is trying to teach you. You skim through it, and if that makes sense, you move on. So that's it.